Hey guys, this is Ryan in Iowa. This is CCL Extra Time. How you doing, Iowa?
Doing well, Ryan. How about yourself?
Good. We got a good guest today. I'm excited for it.
No, yeah, I think we're on episode 6. We've been able to provide the memberships with professional athletes, collegiate athletes. We had former national team members. We did a college recruitment episode. So now, we're able to bring on another big time professional coach, goalkeeper coach. And so excited to be able to have him on the episode. It just shows that we do have a big reach within the CCL network, and we're just really excited and happy to be able to share information with our membership. So I think it's been a cool series. COVID-19 created it, but we've taken over, and COVID-19 won't keep us down; it will only raise us higher.
Yeah, exactly. Uh, yeah, we got some good questions for him. Hopefully, we get some good answers out of him. Some unique takes on, the professional game from the goalkeeping coach perspective. So I think it'll be fun.
I believe it as well. But outside of having our guests, just updates for league, and we have continued to stay in constant communication with our, now we're able to say, conferences. We're in Virginia, Maryland, DC, West Virginia. We've had New England, Georgia. Georgia was the newest addition, and let's see if we continue to add more groups. We know consistently we have pushed out, but we still are looking to get in games. So our spring season has not been canceled. They have been postponed. In addition to, seasonal play, we also have postponed a little bit of our programming. So CCL United, we had big plans to take our groups over to Sweden and Denmark for the Gothia Cup and for the Vodaberg Cup. Unfortunately, we weren't able to play in those tournaments as they were canceled this summer, but we have started, and hopefully we'll have our details finalized to get back out to those CCL United selected players. And we still want to be able to represent those guys in a manner. So we got some social media information coming out on all selected CCL United players here soon. So behind the scenes, we've been doing what we need to do, and we hope we can get these guys and girls on an international trip when able. But we're going to continue to check and make sure we're following safety protocol and traveling restrictions. So it should be a really good setup.
Yeah, for sure. We're always working.
Non-stop. So hopefully it looks like we got our guest coming on. So I think we'll be able to get him onto the page, and then we'll start this interview.
All right, here we have guest Todd Hoffard from Real Salt Lake. Todd, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. How are you guys doing today?
Good, good. Give us a little bio about yourself before we start here.
Well, I've currently, as you mentioned, currently the goalkeeper coach here at Real Salt Lake. I'm the director of goalkeeping, so I oversee, obviously, the first team is my priority, but I also oversee the USL team that's part of us. Their goalkeeper coach, all their goalkeepers, as well as their our youth academy. And their goalkeeper coach and goalkeepers. So I've been around the game for quite a number of years. Graduated from Hartwick College, was drafted out of Hartwick, played professionally for about 9 years or so, various indoor, outdoor leagues prior to MLS. MLS was just kind of getting its feet underneath them as I was finishing my career, and then coached along that time. Various different colleges, Division I, Division III, as head coach, assistant coach, a lot of youth clubs, along the way. Started my own camp business 20-some years ago I used to do all across the country. Then got involved with the New York Red Bulls. I was the first team goalkeeper coach there. In 2011, I got that position and was there for a few seasons. After leaving New York, started with the U.S. Federation. So I was primarily on the girls' side at that time. as a goalkeeper coach, working with anywhere from the U14s to the U20s at various, international and domestic competitions and things. And then the opportunity came out here, Real Salt Lake, 4 years ago, and I've been here ever since. So I've kind of run the gauntlet a little bit from the youth game in the coaching realm all the way up through the college system, youth national teams, and also in the pro game.
Cool. So I watched your U.S. soccer coach's webinar on goalkeeping last week, and you mentioned how this generation of goalkeepers, catching is a problem. They'd like to parry more than catching. What do you think that is? Why do you think that is?
It just seems to be a bit of a trend these days. The big trendy, sexy save is that big blocking technique, or K-save as they call it, which you see a lot of goalkeepers doing, at all the different levels. It's one of those things, I look at it, it's like we've been doing that type of save, reaction type of save, for many, many years. It hasn't just come about in the last couple of years. It's become very trendy in the last couple of years. But it's been something that, the Tony Schumachers of the world, the Neville Southhalls, the Jean-Marie Pfaffs, of the golden era, back in the day, they did the same sort of things. They didn't train it on a day-to-day basis and have an overemphasis like they do today. So now, because it is kind of that trendy type of save, it becomes almost overtraining, in my opinion, where they spend complete sessions on the block and parrying and deflecting and essentially just being a shot stopper. And they forget about the other bit, which is our one priority. If we need to make a save, we want to be able to catch it. We want to be able to hold it, keep it under our control. So I think it just becomes down to training. Goalkeeper coaches, we're basically programming. We're essentially programming a computer. You've got all the programming in behind the scenes. You click a button, boom, and off it goes. Well, it's kind of the same sort of thing. If we're consistently training one type of thing, like diving, for example, or blocking, and that's all we're doing over and over, well, what are we programming that goalkeeper to do? Either block or dive, and not focus on the other things. There's definitely, by all means, we definitely need to know how to block. I'm not saying that, or be a good shot stopper. But at the end of the day, if we can hold the ball versus block it and put it out of play, or block it and put it out for a corner, especially at our level, if we should hold a ball and now we deflect it and put it out for a corner. Well, now you got somebody like a Carlos Vela that's on the other end of that corner kick. And now we're talking a very dangerous situation. So the goalkeeper that doesn't have that ability on a day in and day out basis and be very consistent on just catching and holding the ball, puts themselves into dangerous situations with a Carlos Vela potentially staying on a corner kick, whipping a ball into, a 6'5" center back, or multiple 6'5" center backs. So, and that's not a situation you really want to put yourself in if you don't need to. It's game related type of movements, across our goal. So we're at least maintaining that. The difficult piece is, you might be moving from one post to another, or from one angle to another, where typically you would move from one to another and then deal with some form of service. We don't have a service. So we're just kind of working off the movements of the goalkeeper, which can be monotonous. It can be frustrating. Our goalkeepers certainly, let us know that this is hard. We know that. I tell them every day, I know this isn't ideal, but this is the situation we're presented with, and this is basically all we can do at this moment. Let's make the best out of it. So when we do come out of it and we get into those small groups, which could be next week, it could be weeks from now, we don't really know, that at least from a physical standpoint, our body is still accustomed to those movements. Now we're just adding that piece of the handling, and seeing the flight of the ball. So outside of that, we've done a lot of Zoom calls just like this. We've done, on one of our goalkeepers, we went over all the goals they've conceded throughout their whole career, looking for tendencies. So we've done a lot of analysis via video, on opponents. We've played 2 games, so we've basically gone and dissected both those games from a goalkeeping standpoint, from technically and tactically as well. So we're trying to do the best we can with basically the situation we're in, and Zoom 3 months ago, I never knew what it was. Now I'm pretty much a master at it, as much as I guess I can be, and sharing screens and sharing video, and we're utilizing that a lot. This morning I was on with our entire youth academy, and they're all those goalkeepers from all around the country. So, and we did, some fun things with them. We did some trivia, some fun trivia. We went over some homework pieces that we asked for them. So they're getting little assignments here and there from the academy level and the USL level, just to, keep their brains active as well, which is hard, because we're not able to physically be around each other. So we're trying to keep them as active as we possibly can on all levels, and it's not always ideal, but like I said, it's the situation we've been dealt.
Yeah, I think that's unique, because even as you hit on it, from the pro player to the youth player, they're all really going through the same situation right now. So for those players within the CCL who think they're the only ones who missed a game and missed training with their teammates and competing week in and week out, you have professional players who are doing this full time professionally, who are going through the same. They're just like, hey man, I really want to get back on the field. So that's a good perspective for all of our membership to really hear and see, because this is not just our little pocket of space. This is affecting everybody, through these COVID-19 situations. So we all are hoping to get out of it, but we all are fully aware that this isn't going to be done overnight. But understanding that your pro players are going through this situation, and even when they're back in training, they're still that individualized and that separated is a shock to me. I would have thought, there was at least shots being collected or saved, but yeah, it makes a lot of sense due to the policies that would be a possible way of transfer. So
yeah, and it's exhausting too, from a coaching standpoint. There's so many protocols that if a ball, because they're allowed to have balls in their quadrants, but if one ball rolls from one quadrant to another quadrant, we're like a NASCAR crew. We go running over. We got to grab the ball. We got to disinfect it, and then we roll it back. And as soon as they all leave, when their session's over, we have to disinfect everything. Every cone, every pole, every goal, every ball, every hurdle, whatever apparatus we've used, we have to disinfect. So it becomes a daunting process. And it's, yesterday we were on the field. I started setting up at a little before 7 a.m. We didn't walk off the field till all our groups went through. Not outfield players, goalkeepers, everybody. It was like 1:30. So we had 4 different groups who went through, and then after each group, you got to disinfect everything. So it's a daunting process.
What is the breakdown in between? Because I can imagine you have to let those people get fully away, do the cleanup, and then the next group comes in. Are these hour blocks in between as well, maybe 30 minutes?
Yeah,
much longer.
We do about an hour and 15-minute block. We do just about an hour, just under an hour of them on the field, and that gives us 15 minutes to basically disinfect everything. So goalkeeping wise, we stick to about 45 minutes, and the only reason we do that is we only have 4 goalkeepers that are training with us. So obviously the outfield players, when they come in, they're not doing the same workout as the goalkeepers. So once my 4 are done, we're breaking down that whole field and then setting up the field again for all the outfield players. So, and we'll do that in 2 different circuits. For the outfield players, we'll have we have 4 fields that are going at one moment, and usually 2 of the fields will be set up in one circuit, 2 fields will be set up in another circuit. So we're training twice a week. So like say player A will do the one circuit on the one day, and then the next time they come in, they'll do the opposite circuit and vice versa. So it works out quite well for us. So once they're set up in the morning, they're set. Then all we got to do is kind of wipe them down in between.
That's good.
So, but that's still a daunting. You imagine how many cones are set up on each, and we got to wipe down every one and every ball. it can be exhausting. You're tired. At 1:30 rolls around, you're ready for lunch and you're ready for a nap.
You know, the things that we all took for granted was 100% washing cones.
That's right. That's right.
So when you were with New York, on your roster, you had 3 future MLS coaches on your roster: Thierry Henry, Carl Robinson, Mike Petke. What was that like coaching those guys? Did you see a future of them in coaching, or what?
Yeah. Well, Mike, when I first got there, Mike was already, he had just retired. So him and I were the only 2 American assistants. So he was finished his playing career. Carl, my first year there was still playing. And then the second year he came in, he retired right at the beginning of that year. I think he did the preseason, then kind of retired and then transitioned into becoming a coach. And then obviously Thierry was playing at the time. So Thierry he was awesome. You know, I mean, you're talking about a guy that's done everything in the game, you know, but he was an individual that if you're going to model yourself after somebody, the work ethic that he had was just incredible. You know, to this day, I don't think I've ever met somebody as competitive as Thierry. And it didn't matter if he was playing in a 7-a-side, you know, game, if he was playing pickup basketball, or he was playing tic-tac-toe. It didn't matter. He was going to beat you. And if you beat him, you better be ready to play again, because he wasn't going to stop until he won. You know, just an absolute first-class individual. You know, the one story that I don't think I'll ever be able to duplicate was we played at Arsenal. We played in the Emirates Cup when I was there, and it was the first time Thierry came back to the Emirates Stadium since he left. And we played. It was us, Arsenal, Boca Juniors, and PSG. And we beat PSG in the first game. Not sure how. We actually played really well. We ended up beating PSG. And then we played Arsenal on the Sunday in the second game for the championship, quote unquote, a championship. It was their preseason tournament. We were mid-season. And we played, Boca Juniors played PSG in the first game. We played the second game. So by the time, you know, our game was ready to start, it was packed. It was 60,000 plus, standing room only, the whole 9 yards. I'm warming up our goalkeeper, Frank Rost. And next thing you know, the place went hysterical. Everybody stood up, and I'm going, you know, I'm this kid from Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I'm like, what is going on? I'm looking around, and I turn around, and Thierry's walking out the tunnel, you know, doing one of these, waving to the crowd. And it was one of those moments where you're just like, how did I get here? You know, how am I here at Arsenal, at Emirates Stadium, you know, watching Thierry, who I'm supposed to be the coach, you know, and I'm learning more from this guy than he's ever going to teach me, you know, and just a great experience, you know, and to see him now, you know, in the league. I'm so anxious for us to play Montreal, you know, whenever that is, just to be around him again, just to say hello, you know, just a super genuine person, very, very humble, and just a good guy, you know. And he was a guy that always had the time for you. You know, I look at somebody like that didn't need to say hello, didn't need to, you know, take advice or whatever, but he was always willing to do so, you know. And he did it with my kids. You know, every time my kids were there and he saw my kids, boom, going over, giving them a hug, you know, how you doing? You know, you don't think of that personal interaction from big superstars like that. And he had that quality, and it was awesome to be around.
So with RSL, it's a pretty young roster, but you've got some, you know, OGs of the American game. You had Nick Rimando last year, and Kyle Beckerman is still on the roster. What's it like, you know, coaching with those guys, knowing that they're kind of on the way out, but they're also, you know, using their platform for the future?
Yeah, Nicky was great. You know, obviously I dealt every single day with Nicky, more so than Kyle, you know, from a coaching standpoint, that is. But Nicky was great, and I utilized him a lot with our young academy guys. We'd bring the academy guys out. I'd have him speak with the academy guys because they all looked up to him. The guy's been there, done that in the entire league. Is arguably the best goalkeeper ever play in the MLS. He holds every record. So these last, 2 to 3 years, knowing that his days were coming to an end, at some point that we were trying to have him pass on some of his experiences, and making sure he was interacting with the young guys, whether it was in the academy, whether it was in the USL, so he could pass on some stories, pass on some information, pass on, some things of, when I position myself here, this is what I'm looking for. Or in this situation, this is how I typically deal with it. Not that it's always going to be a perfect fit for every goalkeeper, but at least it was passing some of his information. And he was great with that. He was not the kind of guy that would literally give it if you didn't ask. But if you asked for it, boom, he would give you everything. He would give you the time of day. It's just a good person to be around. Kyle's the same way. And Kyle's more one, he's a little bit more quieter. Nicky's a little bit more outgoing. He's going to give you his opinion when you ask it. Kyle's a little bit more reserved. He's more one that he wants to show you what he can do. He wants to lead by example type of guy. I mean, here's a guy, I'm going to say Kyle's 36, 37, something like that right now. And when we look at the workload, off the GPS on a day-to-day, daily basis, he's got the highest workload every single day. It's unbelievable that he can continue to just, he's like the Energizer Bunny. He just keeps going and going and going and going and going. And he's a great role model for our younger guys, to be in the league this long, to still have the workload and the effort. He's a great example for a lot of our homegrowns that are coming up through our academy and now in our first team. And we've got quite a few of our homegrowns that are involved in our first team.
Yeah, one of my first early memories of watching soccer was, I think, 2014 World Cup when Kyle Beckerman punched Rayo Morales in the face. And I was hooked from then on. But you've also got a young David Achaia. He's pretty highly rated. What's that process like of getting a young kid like that into the first team permanently? A lot of people on the internet say, maybe this person should be starting, give the kids some play. But I mean, you're the coach. I figure you have a lot more to say about that than
yeah. I think
Twitter.
The word that I use is patience. We've got to be very, very patient. You got a young kid. I mean, David's 19 years old. He's just coming out of puberty, and the goalkeeper position is such a volatile position, and such a pressure, packed type of position that you can ruin a kid pretty easily and pretty quickly if you put him in the wrong situations at the wrong time. So we've got to be very, very patient with his development. He's done extremely well to this point. He's still got a long way to go. But he's there. He's very, very close. But again, it's trying to put him in the right situations, in the right moments to allow him to flourish and allow him to be successful. So I really want to be very, very cautious with him in the sense that we've seen it time and time and time again where you've got these young players that come out and they've got all the potential in the world, and yet they peter out, and you wonder why didn't they ever make it? Well, there's probably reasons. So we want to make sure before we're placing him in those environments that we're dotting all the I's, we're checking all the, crossing all the T's, and making sure that each level he's going, he's doing it in the right way. And he's on a good path. So when he is put in that situation, he's able to be very, very successful. So, and giving him little snippets, and the biggest thing with David, he's got to learn how to be a pro first. It's different. You go from the academy to now you're playing against grown men. That is, and grown men that are trying to play to put food on the table. That's a whole different mentality than the youth academy, so he's only a year and a half into that process. And that's a big jump, and if you look around the world, how many 19-year-old goalkeepers do you see playing for big clubs around the world? Not very many. So I know we're all excited, and I am too. You know, I'm looking at his potential, but I've told David from day one, you've only got one word behind you right now, and it's potential. And there's a lot of kids with potential. It's what are we going to do to harness that potential and have you grow from it and develop into now maybe a world superstar. You know, he's got big aspirations of playing, you know, for Man United, Real Madrid, like a lot of young kids that are out there, probably, you know, kids that you guys work with on a day-to-day basis. You know, I tell David, I said, you're not in competition with Zach McMath. You know, that's not your competition. You know, Zach's our first team goalkeeper right now. If you want to play, if your end point, so to speak, is Real Madrid or Man United, your competition is David De Gea. That's your competition. That's the way you've got to look at it. You've got to figure out what your end point is, and that's what you've got to put yourself side by side with. Am I better than them? Do they have weaknesses? Am I better than their weaknesses? And what are their strengths? Can I be better in their strengths? Because at the end of the day, if that's you want to play for Man United, that's your ultimate competition, not the level you're at right now. So that's what we're trying to inspire, you know, David to be, you know, aspire to be David De Gea or better than David De Gea. Because if you want to break into that lineup, you have to be better than him. So it's a process. It's a baby step process, but we're trying to get him there one of these days. But we got to be patient with him as well. He's a young kid.
You know, I think that's just great advice for any aspiring soccer player. And be patient. I think right now a trending thing on Twitter for the last 3 weeks was probably Michael Jordan's The Last Dance, and we all heard his story, and we've seen the legacy that he created. But there was a little bit of patience, and then there was a chip on the shoulder. And I think all players need to have that just to really be realistic and have that charge. So what you spoke there was identifying that target, identifying what you really want to be, and being able to now attack that pursuit. So that's fantastic.
Yeah, and it's different if you're an outfielder, you know, it's different. It's a different path. You know, for an outfielder, I mean, you look at somebody like Christian Pulisic. We all know Christian. You know, how did he get involved in the first team? 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there. You know, he'd come in the 80th minute, you know, and he'd get little snippets, you know, with the first team. Then he'd be down the reserve team. Then he'd be back down the academy. And then he'd be back and maybe get 20 minutes. If you're doing that with a goalkeeper, you're not putting the goalkeeper in with 10 minutes to go. You know, the goalkeeper is going to be in for 90 minutes. And what happens if he has a howler in the first 5 minutes? You're sticking with that goalkeeper for the next 85 minutes. So it's a little bit different pathway for a goalkeeper and getting them minutes than it is for an outfield player.
Well, that's big time. So I know you just spoke a little bit about some homegrown players as well. So currently Real Salt Lake has 12 homegrown players on the roster, you know, and they are registering a lot of minutes. You know, give us some insight on how you guys have truly produced these homegrown players to get them to this certain situation.
Yeah, I mean, that's a testament to you know, our youth academy. You know, they've put together a really good curriculum that was established well before I ever got here. You know, and they've done a very, very good job of integrating the system of play that we want to play here with the first team, that then funnels all the way down. So basically our goal was we want it to be kind of plug and play. So if we've got a young academy kid that's 18 years old and all of a sudden we bring them up into the first team, we don't have to completely, you know, show them how, you know, our style of play is different. And this is the way it's from 15 years old, they're playing the same style of play that we're playing with the first team. So the beauty of it when in regards to development that we have here, and probably the advantage we have is over most MLS DAs or old DAs, whatever they're going to be called now, is that we're all under one roof. So we have the youth academy, and their dorms are all in our training complex. They go to school right in the training complex. Their locker rooms are in our training complex. The USL team is right down the hall from us. So if we need a player in the morning for training, we can pluck somebody from the USL, or we can pluck somebody from the academy. So now you're a 17-year-old kid. Maybe you're a 17-year-old left back. Now all of a sudden, instead of training with the academy, you're thrown in with the first team. Now you're playing against 30-year-old men, collecting a paycheck for a living. That's from a purely developmental standpoint, you can't get that at your average club. You're not going to be pushed in that environment and see the day in and day out process of what it's like to be a pro. So it does become a lot more easy for us to plug and play, to pluck a kid out of the academy, because they know how we play and they've been in that environment before. I mean, we had a 15-year-old goalkeeper that went to preseason with us this year.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, can you imagine being 15 years old and going for 2 weeks, well, a week and a half, whatever it was, to Phoenix, Arizona for a preseason? So we have a little bit of an advantage in that regard, where we can place kids in that pro environment at a much younger age and put some of those pressures in. So when they do end up signing a contract or coming out of college, if that's the pathway they choose, it's a lot easier for them because they actually have been in that environment. They understand the pressures. They understand the players they're competing with. So we realize as well that we're not going to be Atlanta United. We're not going to be LFC, and we're going to bankroll $30 million on players. That's just not the way we're going to do business here at RSL. So we're going to rely on developing those players at a young age to come into our first team. That's why you see 12 homegrown players. And that's the pathway that we've chosen as a club. We'd rather develop from within and then potentially sell them on somewhere and kind of keep ourselves growing from that regard. So if we can develop, a player every year, I mean, that's huge. That's huge for us. So it's not going to happen to every player. We know that, we realize it, but we're looking for those 1 or 2 players a year. If you can do that, we've been very, very successful at the youth level for us.
No, I think that pathway just sounds unique, and for those players involved in the academy setup, that's a big opportunity that they can always have. And like you said, most clubs would not be able to present that. So
Yes.
My next question, it may get you in trouble. And I always ask this question because you like you said, you played the gauntlet, you've been around the block. So now let's just say, who's the best goalkeeper that you've worked with? And you can delve into, was he the best because he was just a pure shot stopper, or was it because his work ethic? But overall, your favorite goalkeeper that you've worked with.
Yeah, it's like having a kid. It's tough to say, which one's my favorite. Because I look at all the goalkeepers that I've ever worked with. They're like my kids. You're around them. The goalkeeper relationship is so different than every other coach and player on the team. So they do become like your kids because you get to know them because you're in close proximity with them so often and for such long periods. You just get to know them as people, and there's such a big trust that goes back and forth. So it's difficult to pick just one. If I had to pick 3, I'd probably pick 3 for 3 different reasons. If I look at somebody from an international level, Frank Rost was a great one. If you know Frank, I was at Red Bull with him. He, played for Germany, has caps for Germany, played in the Bundesliga for like 20 years. An interesting character, very interesting character. I'll kind of leave it at that. But, from looking at from the global stage, he was a big goalkeeper at the time, especially I was newer into the pro game from a coaching standpoint, especially at this level, to be around him. I learned an awful lot from him. So from a learning perspective, he was great for me in my career at that particular time. The other 2, I look at somebody like Luis Robles. Luis is he's a phenomenal goalkeeper. And I don't even want to talk about his goalkeeping, because we can all look at him and he's arguably one of the better ones in MLS at the moment. But from a human standpoint, Luis was just a superb human being. His work ethic was unbelievable. he just had this way about him that he was so calming, whether he was in the locker room, whether he was on the field, or whether he was completely off the field and you were out to dinner with him. Just a very calming voice, which I think you really need as a goalkeeper. You know, if you're a center back, you certainly don't want the guy that sounds panicked and behind you all the time. You want that kind of calming, commanding voice behind you. And that was Luis. You know, and the other one, I think you got to go with Nick Rimando. You know, he's, you know, to work with somebody that's represented your country, you know, owns every record, you know, there is in the league, you know, and to work with him and have the relationship that I had with him, I think you got to go somebody like him as well. So it's tough to pick just one. Those would probably be my Mount Rushmore, I guess, so to speak, you know, of the guys that I've personally worked with. But there's so many other ones for other reasons as well. But they're probably three that probably stand out at the top of my head.
So in MLS right now, which strikers are you paying the most attention to? If you were between the sticks, who would you hate to go up against?
Every one of them, I think. But, well, it's a lot easier now. Zlatan, obviously, when he was in the league, was a guy you knew was dangerous. You know, fortunately, he's no longer in the league. But you got to look at, you know, guys like, you know, Chicharito. You know, Chicharito, you know, hasn't come out of the blocks, you know, incredibly, you know, his first two games, but he's dangerous. You always have to be aware of where he's at. You know, I know he's not a 9, but Carlos Vela. You know, Carlos Vela is a guy you always got to make sure you're on top of. You know, we played Orlando in the first game of the year, and Nani wasn't playing. He was suspended. But a player like a Nani, you know, whether it's in the flow of play or a free kick around the box, you always got to be aware of not giving away silly restarts when Nani's on the field. You know, there's a lot of guys around the league. There really are. And, you know, a lot of it is just there's so much detail in the video analysis these days that we have to be, you know, holding our goalkeepers accountable. So we're looking at every forward. We're looking at every attacking player. You know, we'll do I'll narrow it down for about 8 to 10 minutes of a presentation for them that they'll watch, you know. But for me, I'm looking at every single attacking player that we're going to face on the weekend, you know, and we're looking at tendencies. Do they want it on their right foot? Do they want it on their left foot? Who are they typically getting it from? You know, are they getting it from, if they're a 9, are they getting it from the 11? Or are they getting it from the 7? Are they getting it, you know, longer balls from the 6? Whatever the case may be. So we've got a little bit of an idea of what we're going to be facing on the weekend, you know, from the flow of play and then as well in restarts. But there's a lot of forwards in this league that are, because it's such an athletic league. It's a very athletic, strong, we're going to run right at you type of league. You know, but then you also got to look at, you know, some of our arch rivals, you know, Diego Valeri, you know, Blanco, you know, Portland has kind of been our Achilles heel, you know, the last several years. So you got to look at guys like that, guys that don't have the name recognition of probably a Chicharito or a Zlatan Ibrahimovic, but I tell you what, they're dangerous, you know. So there's the Chicharitos that everybody knows, but then there's another tier below them that you can't just focus on the Chicharito, you know, because a Chris Pontius is going to come and you might not know Chris Pontius, but the Chris Pontius is good enough. He's going to beat you if you're just focused on the Chicharito.
Chris Pontius will hit you with a banger once in a while.
Yeah, he will. And it can be off his foot or it can be off his head.
Yeah.
You know, he's dangerous all the way around. So it's one of those, you got to be prepared for everything. You know, a lot of the video is going to be key for that. And that's a big piece of my job.
Yeah, no, I think in that position, you know, video and making sure you have your data is essential. You know, like you said, understanding traits and characteristics of these players helps you know exactly where you should be placed and kind of what their tendencies are, so you can potentially have an understanding of what's coming. It's not always definite, but I just think it's always a little bit better to be prepared than not.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
If you didn't know, Ryan was a goalkeeper back in the day. So.
Okay, good.
We got to share some video and some pictures with you.
It's that goalkeeper union. We all stick together.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
No, so just to shift, I know outside of Real Salt Lake, you also are, you're running an organization one-on-one goalkeeping. A lot of virtual goalkeeping stuff right now, but, dive into that operations a little bit for us.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about, but this is my 27th year doing it. It's unbelievable. I've got guys now and women as well that are on my staff that were campers of mine, years and years ago, and now they have kids, and it's kind of shows my age, I guess, a little bit. But yeah, I still run and operate the business. I used to be one of 3 national goalkeeping camps that would travel all across the country. So we've done programs, in Pennsylvania, Georgia, Illinois, Alaska, California, all over Wisconsin. I've done programs here. And I've done programs in Trinidad and Tobago as well, and in New Zealand. So it's been a long journey. That's the fun piece, where you're getting down and, with that next generation and those next couple cycles with the young kids and really trying to, focus on the technical aspects and making sure they're doing the right things. This virtual goalkeeper that we've launched is our newest program. I'm really enjoying that. We've had a lot of real interest. That's more of the classroom, almost with our overnight programs, where in the evenings we do a classroom. It's kind of like those classrooms on steroids, so to speak, where we're delving into, actually we had Luis Robles on last week, with a guest speaker, talking about his pathway, and we do IDPs with him, and we're having them self-reflect a lot. We're doing a lot of video with them. So it's a lot more of, when you're with your club, you're doing more of the tactical and the technical type of piece, where now we're doing a lot of the psychological. We've got, psychologists that are doing presentations for the kids. We're doing video presentations. We're going all the phases. So they're becoming more of a student of the goalkeeper position. So it's just a little bit different, and this environment that we're in is kind of spearheaded that, and it's been going great. I'm really, really enjoying it. The kids are enjoying it because it's just a different type of environment for them. So you look at it from their club, and now if they're doing something like this, they're getting almost the full, well-rounded type of environment. So they're getting some of that educational piece, with us. And then they're getting more of the tactical and the technical and the games, the training type of piece with the club. So it's been a great mesh and mold so far.
So 20 plus years of doing that. I can only imagine, like you said, that's the fun part as well. You get to see the youngest kid coming in. You get to instill that love for the game and hopefully be able to even follow those tracks, like you said, if you're able to keep them coming back to camps and over again. So that is the beauty of the game. And then you get the super competitive edge when you're there at Real Salt Lake wanting to continue to just win games. So I think that's extremely unique.
Yeah, and it is when you're in this environment, it's such a pressure cooker environment a lot of the times, and you're constantly in prep mode. You play on Saturday and that game is done, and Sunday morning you're prepping and preparing for the next game, and your livelihood revolves around that next game, to then kind of switch gears and to do more of the teaching, because in a pro game, we're not teaching anymore. We're prepping, we're giving them the information, and that it's their job to then put it to fruition. Where now, I can be in this virtual environment, or I can, run a camp or a clinic, and I can get into the nuts and bolts, the hands-on teaching element of the position. And it's very, very refreshing to kind of transition from the pro game and go, okay, that's done for an hour or two, and I'm just going to focus on these dozen kids or these 15 kids or 4 kids or whatever, and we're going to help them develop, because that's that next generation. That's the next cycle or next 2 cycles. So, at the end of the day, I want to see the United States get back to a goalkeeping nation. We were there for a little while. We've had a little dip in the road, and hopefully we can get back to it. And I think it's our job as coaches to help that next generation get there.
No, I think that's big. No, so as we're going through this, I'm looking at your hat as well. Is this a customized hat for you?
It is actually, yeah. It's a new logo we brought out probably a year ago or so. Just something different. Every once in a while I get bored with seeing the same logo all the time. So I was like, hey, let's try something different. Somebody came up with this, and we've run with it. So it's just my initials and then a little GK, which you probably can't see it in there. But yeah, it's all over our website, and it's been I like it. Some of the kids seem to like it, so we'll see.
No, it definitely caught my eye. So no, I think that's big time. So one thing I would say is, as you have the virtual goalkeeping, we're definitely going to be able to share the website, on this video. We'll share it with our membership. So hopefully, our people will be able to take a look and hopefully participate in some of the things you have going forward. But, just as we have you on the call and with your loads of experience, what message would you share to the CCL's club goalkeepers, during these, COVID-19 times? What should they still be doing? And then what's just some words of motivation that you'd like to share to a goalkeeper that thinks, man, I see all my field players juggling and doing this, and coaches telling me juggle 25 times, but I'm a goalkeeper. I want something specific for us.
Yeah.
Now, what would you give to them?
Well, I'm one that I'm always a glass half full type of person, and I'm always looking for the silver lining. And I think, yeah, these are bad times we're in, and they're difficult times for all of us, for many different reasons. But I think for any goalkeeper, the goalkeepers are out within your league, take advantage of this time where you can do a lot of individual stuff. At the end of the day, I'm a big believer in footwork and handling. Footwork and handling, and in and around that bubble of our body, the statistics tell us, and I can always show you the statistics, that a good portion, it's about 45% of the saves, so almost half of the saves you make are in and around the bubble of your body. So can you still be doing that in these times? Can you be working on that? Absolutely. So when the outfield players are working on their juggling and their flicks and their tricks and all that kind of stuff, all you need is a ball and a wall. That's all you need. At the end of the day, I don't think any goalkeeper, whether they're 10 years old and just starting out, or if they're Peter Cech and's played for 20 years, in the Premier League, you can't catch enough balls. You simply cannot catch enough of balls. And just the ability to toss a ball up against the wall, boom, and catch it clean. Or toss the ball in an angle up against the wall. Now you've got to shuffle your feet and get your body behind it. That's something I think, utilize the time that you have right now, and you can only be working with yourself or with mom, dad, brother, sister, whatever, in the backyard. Catch as many balls as you possibly can at all different levels, but all within that bubble. And it could be something as simple as you move and shuffle 1 yard to your left or 1 yard to your right. And as soon as you get there, you're in that set position and mom and dad are tossing the ball at your face, or tossing the ball at mid-level, or rolling a ball at your feet and you're scooping balls up. Those are things that often get overlooked, in our training, because now the big trend is blocking and shot stopping and all that kind of stuff. This can be a great time to just focus on how well you can move left and right, forward, backward, and catch a simple ball. So that would be my one word of advice. Utilize this time and really concentrate on your feet and really concentrate on your hands. Because the last thing you want to be is just a shot stopper. In my opinion, shot stopping is one element of being a solid goalkeeper. Just one. The good goalkeeper is going to eliminate those opportunities before they ever become them. Not just stand in their goal line and stop shots. Anybody can stop shots. We want to try to train goalkeepers, that all-round, well-rounded goalkeeper that's cutting out crosses, cutting out through balls, catching balls, not creating second chance because now they got to recover and flounder and make a second save off of something they could have caught, or like I said earlier, putting it out for a corner, and now you got Carlos Vela whipping in a corner. So
No, that's good, and hopefully they take these notes, because that's essential. And then that the last piece you layered into is, that's just one aspect, but then just understanding the other parts of being fully well-rounded with your foot, with your feeding, with communication. I think all that creates that total package of truly what it takes to get to that next level.
Yep. Well, and I take it even one step further. That I break goalkeeping down into 3 phases. Phase 1 is before the save. Phase 2 is the actual save, the art of making a save. Phase 3 is what are you going to do with the ball after you've made the save? You got to put it back into play. I look at phase 1 as by far your best goalkeepers in the world are the best in phase 1, because phase 1 is before you even had to make a save. How well are you communicating? Like you just mentioned, are you organizing your back 4 that you don't even have to make a save because you've thwarted everything out and organized it? And, I look back on my career and a lot of the goalkeepers that I ever, talked to, the most difficult and most tiring games they've ever played are the games you barely had anything to do. Because all you knew was your one mistake. So you were so tuned in on those games that you're absolutely pounding the opponent. Those are the most difficult games for you being as a goalkeeper, because one little mistake and you might lose. You might have had 20 shots and didn't score any. They had 1 and they score. So you really got to make sure you're keeping everything in that before the save moments. And that piece that you mentioned, your communication, is massive for the goalkeeper.
So we had Christine Lilly on the show a few weeks back, and she was talking about her time with Mayowa's favorite team, the Washington Warthogs,
Yep.
The indoor soccer league. And question for you, what was it like playing on a teams with the nicknames Crunch, Kicks, or Alley Cats? What was that like?
Only in America. Only in America you're gonna have the Cleveland Crunch, but it was great. I mean, it was a fun time, and at that time in my career, I didn't know any better. The indoor game was essentially all we had. And you would play indoor, and then you'd go on loan somewhere and play outdoor, in the A League, or it was the USISL at the time. So you didn't think anything of it. That if you wanted to be a pro, that was the path. You played indoor. And that just happened to be, some of the names were, was it the Tampa Bay Terror, and there was some funky names, but it was an enjoyable time. And I don't know if I would trade it. I wasn't an indoor goalkeeper, so to speak. It wasn't my forte, but it was enjoyable. Some of the people that I met and some of the experiences you have. You're playing in an NHL arena and it's a packed house. That's an electric environment. I don't care what sport you're playing. You could be playing hockey, soccer, tennis, whatever. Those are experiences you don't have in your everyday life. If I'm a doctor, I'm a lawyer, or I'm a janitor, it doesn't matter. How many times you go into work and there's 15, 20,000 people, screaming your name, whether they're screaming your name in a positive way or a negative way. But they were great experiences you look back on, and they were a lot of fun. And the indoor was definitely unique, but it was purely an American sport. It truly was. But you look back at some of the stuff that they were doing with, the intros when coming running out through the smoke, and the strobe lights, all over after the goals. Well, look at the NHL now. Look at the NBA. It's the same stuff. So they were a little bit ahead of their time, I think, with the way they were forcing to be an entertaining sport. So you look back and you're like, you know what, that indoor league was pretty cool.
So I'll bring up one more point from back in the day, and maybe you can have some success to get this back in play. Please go to the commissioner. We want the old school PKs back.
Mm-hmm. We do, yes.
We want players starting at half field running at you 1v1.
We at least want goalie wars at the All-Star game, at least.
Yeah, well, I would take both of those. I actually, because the goalie wars was just on MLSsoccer.com. Did a video. It was last week, I believe, And it was maybe a month or two ago, they were doing the MLS shootout.
Mm-hmm.
And I said right then and there the same thing. Why can't we do this again? What are we doing PKs for? PKs are awful. I hate PKs. Let's bring back the shootout. And everybody's like, oh, why would everyone do that? That's not football. Da, da, da. But it levels the playing field a little bit. It's more of a 50-50 type of, penalties. There's no pressure on the goalkeeper in a penalty. You're not meant to save it.
You save it, you're a hero. If you don't,
but you're not meant to save it. So, I mean, how much of it now all of a sudden it's 35, you got 5 seconds or 6 seconds, whatever it was. Then you got 35 yards. That's a little bit 50-50 now. So it's a little bit more even, but I would definitely agree. I'd bring that back in a heartbeat. Not sure if it's going to happen, but plus I'm not sure how much pull I have with the commissioner anyways. But I'd love to see it happen. I really would.
No, but Todd, no, we really do appreciate your time. I'm glad that, Hartwick brought this together. You and our executive director, Brian Cook, were able to chat and come on this. So we really do appreciate your insight, your canter, and telling us, your information and providing it to our membership. So, if there's any final plug or any final shout out you'd want to give, the floor is yours.
No, the only thing I would say is, best of luck to all you goalkeepers. If you've got dreams and aspirations, shoot for them. I tell goalkeepers all the time, the Man Uniteds, the Real Madrids, the national teams, whether it's the U.S. or, whether you're, from Trinidad and Tobago or Mexico, doesn't matter. Somebody's going to wear that number 1 shirt. And why can't it be you? If your dream is to play for that national team, for that club, somebody's going to do it. Those clubs and organizations are going to outlive all of us. And somebody's always going to wear that shirt. And why can't it be you? Dream big, but along with that, you've got to work really, really hard. You got to work really, really hard, do your due diligence. If I can ever help in any way, feel free, reach out to me. I'd be more than willing to help. My whole goal is to help goalkeepers get into that level of play wherever they want to play, whether it's with their national team, a big club. And if I can, help with some of my experiences along their pathway, I'll do whatever I can. At the end of the day, I want to see USA goalkeeping be the best in the world. I want to see the United States be the goalkeeping capital of the world, and I'm a little bit biased because I'm obviously an American, but I'd really like us to get to that point. And I think we can. I think we've got a lot of quality in this country from a coaching standpoint, as well as a playing standpoint. We just got to kind of refocus and hopefully we can get that.
No, that's perfect. No, once again, really do appreciate your time and from the CCL family, just continue for you and your family to stay safe, stay healthy, and we're wishing you the best as the season hopefully gets kicked off soon, and we will be supporting Real Salt Lake.
Thank you. Very much appreciated. All the best to you all as well. Stay safe and healthy, and hopefully I'll see you all again soon.
All right. Thanks a lot, Todd.
Thank you.
No, I think that was one of our better guests. It's probably not the best thing to say, but a lot of information that Todd brought to the table and shared, years of knowledge and wealth of experience. So that was interesting. What did you like most about that type of topic?
I mean, it was a really good insight on goalkeeping at the pro game, really, and how, RSL operates, which is very unique, in America, how, there's different takes on the academy process. So that's really interesting how he went into that. And what you think?
Yeah, no, I'm one thing I was very interested about was how that MLS is bringing their players back in and kind of being that safe. I know there's reasons behind it, and that protocol is exactly what we need during these times. But I could imagine, especially being a goalkeeper, going to a session and really not saving any shots, not doing any reaction saves, and just doing everything very personable versus having somebody even being able to throw, soccer balls at you. So that's unique. it looks like we're MLS is still in talks with potentially bringing the season back and running a quick little tournament. I know the NWSL women's game, they've announced a championship that they're going to host, and so they're turning it into a tournament style. So that should be exciting as well. So we're almost back. We got German soccer back. English soccer's been approved to return. I know Cash Money is going to be excited if they get back on the field and can Liverpool
I
bring
think
home the trophy.
La Liga is coming back June 1st, I think.
And then so we're almost
End of
full
June,
circle.
so.
And next is going to be CCL because we've been in constant communication with our technical directors and as we've said, we're ready to get back, and it's just once we get approval by our state officials and once parks open up, we're on the field, and I'm sure of it. So
Yeah.
So no, another successful episode, to our membership. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Thanks for continuing to watch and continue to stay safe, stay healthy, and we can't wait to see you on the field soon, but we look forward to seeing you on next week's episode.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Yep.